I would love to thank my wife Francesca for saving my life many times. My children, all three of you are here. Thank you for teaching me how to love.
James Hetfield is about to confess something that will change how you hear Metallica's biggest songs forever. And before you click away thinking this is another hit piece, stay with me because what he admits is actually genius. Look, every guitarist borrows ideas, but James did something most rock stars never do. He told the truth about it. And when you hear which riffs he took and how he transformed them into songs that defined heavy metal, you'll understand why Metallica became legends while the original artists faded into obscurity. We're counting down 6 riffs that James Hetfield openly admitted he stole, the songs they became, and the musical alchemy that turned theft into art. Number 6 will surprise you. Number 1? It's their biggest song ever, and the original artist had no idea until James told him face to face. Let's get into it. We're starting with the song that made Metallica a household name. Enter Sandman has been played over 1.5 billion times on streaming platforms. That opening riff is instantly recognizable worldwide. But James has admitted it came from an unlikely source: Soundgarden. Specifically, the main riff bears a striking resemblance to Louder Than Love, a deep cut from Soundgarden's 1989 album of the same name. Both riffs use a similar chromatic descending pattern in E minor, that dark, churning sound that feels like something crawling towards you in the dark. Here's where it gets interesting. James has said in interviews that he was listening to a lot of Seattle grunge in 1990 when they were writing the Black Album. He's specifically mentioned Soundgarden as an influence during that period. Producer Bob Rock pushed them towards simpler, more accessible riffs, and James took that Soundgarden heaviness and stripped it down to its most primal form. If you listen to both riffs back to back, you can hear the DNA. But here's the genius. James slowed it down, added that iconic palm-muted chug, and created something that sounds infinitely more menacing. Kim Thayil, Soundgarden's guitarist, has never publicly complained about it. Why? Because in music, influence isn't theft, it's evolution. James took an idea, put it through the Metallica filter, and created something that transcended the original inspiration. The result: Enter Sandman became Metallica's most commercially successful song, earning them an estimated $15 to $20 million over the decades. Soundgarden's Louder Than Love? Most casual rock fans have never heard it. Drop a comment if you caught this similarity before, or if you're hearing it for the first time right now. Master of Puppets from Black Sabbath, the title track from what many consider Metallica's masterpiece album. That galloping main riff has influenced thousands of metal bands, but James admitted in a 1986 interview with Metal Forces magazine that the descending chromatic riff was directly inspired by Black Sabbath's Symptom of the Universe. Now, before the Sabbath purists lose their minds, let me explain. Tony Iommi created a template with that song, a fast, aggressive opening that explodes into a riff-driven assault. James studied that structure like a blueprint. Listen to how Symptom of the Universe opens with that machine gun riff, then drops into a heavier groove. Now think about Master of Puppets. Different notes, different tempo, but the exact same structural DNA. Fast intro, crushing main riff, dynamic shifts that keep you locked in. What James did was take Sabbath's innovation and inject it with thrash metal urgency. He sped it up, added more technical complexity, and layered it with lyrics about manipulation and control that gave the music deeper meaning. Kirk Hammett's solo section in the middle, that's where Metallica departed completely from the Sabbath influence and made it their own. But that opening salvo? Pure Iommi inspiration. Tony Iommi himself has acknowledged this in interviews, saying he's flattered that Metallica took his ideas and ran with them. That's the mark of a true innovator, being secure enough to recognize when someone improved upon your work. Master of Puppets has generated over $30 million in revenue through sales, streaming, and licensing. It's been used in movies, video games, and even played by the San Francisco Symphony, all because James knew which foundations to build on. Seek and Destroy from Diamond Head. This one's particularly fascinating because James has been brutally honest about it. The main riff from Seek and Destroy was lifted almost note for note from Diamond Head's Dead Reckoning. If you don't know Diamond Head, They were a new wave of British heavy metal band that influenced pretty much every thrash metal band that came after them. But they never achieved commercial success. Why? Bad timing, worse management, and a record label that didn't know how to market them. Here's where it gets deeper. Metallica didn't just steal from Diamond Head. They worshipped them. The band covered multiple Diamond Head songs on their early albums and B-sides. They gave Diamond Head more exposure in America than their own record label ever did. Lars Ulrich, who grew up in Denmark, had Diamond Head records that were nearly impossible to find in the US. He introduced James to the band, and they both agreed. These riffs are too good to stay buried in obscurity. When James wrote Seek and Destroy, he openly admitted it was his attempt to write a Diamond Head song. Same galloping rhythm, same aggressive open string power chords, same attitude. The difference? Metallica had the marketing machine and timing that Diamond Head lacked. Brian Tatler, Diamond Head's guitarist, has gone on record saying he's grateful for Metallica's tributes. Without Metallica covering their songs and citing them as influences, Diamond Head would have been completely forgotten. Instead, they've experienced a career revival, touring with Metallica and finally receiving the recognition they deserved. Have you ever heard Diamond Head? Let me know in the comments if you think they deserve more credit for shaping thrash metal. For Whom the Bell Tolls, from R.E.M. That iconic bass intro. Cliff Burton's defining moment. The riff that makes every bassist want to pick up their instrument. James has admitted in multiple interviews that the main guitar riff that follows was heavily inspired by R.E.M.'s Man on the Moon. Wait, what? R.E.M.? The college rock band? This is where James Hetfield's genius becomes clear. He didn't just steal from metal bands, he pulled from everywhere. Man on the Moon has a similar descending minor key riff that creates a sense of melancholy and inevitability. James heard that emotional quality and thought, what if we made this heavy? The genius is in the transformation. R.E.M.'s version is introspective and gentle. Metallica's version sounds like war drums announcing the apocalypse. Same emotional core, completely different execution. James layered that riff over Cliff's bass intro, which itself was inspired by classical music. Cliff was obsessed with Bach and created something that transcended both influences. The result is a song that feels ancient and modern simultaneously, like a battle anthem from a war that hasn't happened yet. For Whom the Bell Tolls became one of Metallica's most enduring songs, played at virtually every concert for 40 years. It's earned them millions and influenced countless bands. All because James heard something in an R.E.M. song that no one else did. Michael Stipe, R.E.M.'s vocalist, has never commented on the connection, probably because the songs sound nothing alike on the surface. But musicians hear differently. They hear the skeleton beneath the flesh. James heard the bones of Man on the Moon and built a completely different body around them. The truth about stealing. So what's the real lesson here? Every legendary guitarist steals. Jimi Hendrix stole from Curtis Mayfield. Eddie Van Halen stole from Alan Holdsworth. Jimmy Page stole from basically everyone. The difference is honesty. James Hetfield built a career on transparency. He never pretended to invent heavy metal. He stood on the shoulders of Black Sabbath, Diamond Head, and yes, even ABBA, and used those foundations to build something that lasted 40 years. Theft becomes art when you acknowledge your influences, transform them into something new, respect the original creators, and add your own voice to the conversation. James did all four. That's why Metallica is worth over $1 billion collectively, while many of their influences died broke. Not because they were better musicians, they weren't, but because they understood that influence, when acknowledged and evolved, is the currency of creativity. So here's my question for you. Does knowing these songs were influenced by other artists make you respect Metallica more or less? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want more deep dives into the music and business of rock's biggest bands, hit that subscribe button. We're pulling back the curtain on the stories that made the legends. And remember, every great artist is a thief. The best ones just have the courage to admit it. Next week, we're investigating Led Zeppelin's most controversial borrowing moments. And trust me, James Hetfield looks like a saint compared to Jimmy Page. You won't want to miss it.